we go back to the late 1970s when Dick Fosbury actually discovered the Fosbury flop, he did it for a reason. He did it to actually create a position where our body and our hips don't actually have to, our center of mass doesn't actually have to clear the bar, and we can rotate over the bar with our backs. In order to do this though, we have to have some common understanding of what that means to rotate over the bar. What we're trying to accomplish here is having the approach do all the work. So why do we do a full approach? What's the purpose of being that far out? Why do we that far back? Why do we want to bring that much speed in? Because we want the approach to do the work when it comes to rotation over the bar. What does that mean? For instance, we have a lot of athletes that come in, and I'll have Chris here demonstrate. They'll come in, and the first thing that they'll want to do is they want to square their back up to the bar. So they're actually going to want to twist their upper body just a little. Show us what we're talking about here. So when he takes off, yes, he's going to want to take off from there. Notice his foot, number one, isn't in the place that we discussed. It's actually away from the mat, and we want it in those in between the two corners of the mat. And notice his back too, and his drive knee, before it even leaves the ground, he's cranking this across his body, his arm across his body, and he's squaring his back up to the bar. We want to avoid that as much as we can. That's a very, basically it's human nature to think about, if we're going to rotate, we have to twist. That's a false assumption. The reality is we want the approach to do the work. You know, when I talk to some of our best athletes, they don't think about rotating over the bar at all. They let the approach do the work. So what we really want to do is we want to hit that takeoff just in that position that we showed Autumn, hit that takeoff, and we want to stay right in there. I'll pick up the knee. Now, think about it in these terms. When we release the force from the ground after his takeoff and he's up in the air, that's really good to hold it that way, by the way. When he actually releases that foot from the ground, everything we did on the approach will take care of itself, and it'll get us over the midpoint of the bar and rotate those hips through as necessary to land in the correct position in the mat as well. We're always trying to find the right position over the bar, and the rotation is huge. But to overdo the rotation, and a lot of coaches, believe it or not, I've had a lot of coaches that actually teach driving this knee across their body when they leave the ground, and it's not necessarily something that'll work. What happens is they're burning the candle from both ends. So if you have a good approach and you try twisting on top, you're going to ride this crossbar for a year. So when we're thinking of rotation over the bar, there are a few things that I've discussed with my athletes, like kind of what goes through their heads, what they're thinking about. One is getting their shoulder blades to the back corner of the pit, the opposite corner of where they took off. Get those shoulder blades to that corner. Land on their shoulder blades, not their butt. Another thing with rotation is timing. The one thing that works in a lot of the jumping events is when you take off from utilizing a lot of speed and force, we almost have to hit slow motion. So when we're up in the air, we got to think everything is delayed. So when we leave the ground, we have to be patient, not only with our drive phase, as if we're going up to scissor the bar, but we also have to understand that we have to be patient, and when we throw our shoulders back and lift our hips and keep them there for as long as we can. And the longer we can drive our knee, round two, lift the hips. When we get to that point where we can engage those and get the hips to the sky, then we're in a good position and we can have appropriate timing over the bar.